Hey folks, my name's Ed Travers. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of St. Margaret of Scotland that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, Gwe. The other day, I had a conversation on Twitter. And it was a good conversation on Twitter. The person I was speaking to, him and I, we probably don't see eye to eye on too many things. But he's respectful. And he offers what I believe to be challenging questions and statements. And this past weekend, I thought he was doing a great job of throwing things out there and seeking input, seeking conversation about some of his thoughts. And I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you this week. The first thing I want to share is a concept, and you've heard these things before, that moving forward in the directions that people like me want to move, what it'll lead to is forms of fascist governments. Authoritarianism will eventually take over, and rights and freedoms will be taken away. Now, I'm paraphrasing him here, and I mean no disrespect. One of the victims of this authoritarianism, of this fascism, will be people of faith. Our faith will be outlawed. It'll be stripped from us. We won't be allowed to practice our faith anymore. And we need to be really, really concerned about that. I've done videos about Christian persecution before. I've done videos about the many times throughout history Christians have been persecuted. And the truth is, all peoples of faith have at some moment in time or another been persecuted, often by other peoples of faith. Lord knows Christians had their hands involved in so much of it. I've talked about how during those times of persecution, the faiths, they actually get stronger. They're forced underground, and they're forced to go about business differently. And oftentimes when they're pushed out to those margins, when they're pushed out to those limits, that's when you see the true strength of what they believe come shining through. That it's through this persecution that you actually see faith grow. When authoritarians in the past have taken over and have persecuted the church, persecuted the faith, again, whatever the faith may be, there is suffering, there is pain, there is violence, there is torture, there is abuse, there is disrespect, there is marginalization, ostracization, there is isolation. People are forced to stop doing things the way they've always done them. During those times, religion will suffer, right? The act of practicing what we believe will suffer, especially things like worship services. Churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, they're closed. The authoritarians want to keep people from gathering together. Communities shrink. Faith communities shrink. They're no longer allowed to worship in broad daylight. As I said, they've got to go underground. They have to become smaller. They have to become much more independent of one another. This does happen. And I'm not looking forward to any of those things happening should the great dystopian future unfold upon us that many are afraid of. I'm not looking forward to the pain, the suffering, the isolation. I'm not looking forward to losing an opportunity to worship in the ways that we've always worshipped. No. Those things, pain and suffering are horrible. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to be tortured. I don't want to be beaten. I don't want to be taken away from my family. I don't want to see my family taken away from me. I don't want to see my family and my friends suffer. Of course not. That would really bother me, as it would bother anybody. And the way I practice my faith, my religion, my Anglicanism, that feeds me. And it feeds me in really wonderful ways, often. Feeds me in really wonderful days, and I don't want to see an end to that. I don't want to see that taken away from me. But my faith, your faith, it can never be taken away from us, because our faith is literally, we are told that our faith is literally a gift from God. Our faith is based on God's revelation into our lives. It's not something that we go out and build for ourselves. It's not something that we earn. It's not something that we work for. Our faith, God's jumping into our life and saying, hello, that is a gift. That is an absolute gift that only God can give us. No, our faith is a gift from God. And it is something that we can strengthen, that we can deepen. It is something that we can empower. It is something that we can follow. It's something that we can nurture and maintain. We can invest ourselves into it. And we can make it something that grows increasingly more important and more vital to us. We can offer ourselves to this gift. And the more we offer ourselves to this gift, the stronger it becomes in us. But it is ultimately a gift. It's a gift from the one who created you. And no other person, no other thing can ever take it from you. It's something that only we can give up. It's something that only we can walk away from. We don't have to be afraid of a future where some authoritarian tries to tell us that we are no longer allowed to believe in Jesus Christ. Many, many, many have tried that. Many have tried to rip the faith away from the faithful. All have failed. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that the revelation of God into your life, the revelation of God's divinity, of God's creation, of God's way, of God's path, of God's love, I pray that you will cherish it. May you hold it as precious, that you will feed it and nurture it and help it to grow within you. And I pray that you will never, ever be afraid that someone will be able to take it away from you. Because that faith is far greater than any religion. It's far greater than our ability to gather and worship. Amen. Nemultus.